Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro RPG. The end of another week, the end of another poll. We've got a very definite win for Gundark's fantastic technology for the Star Wars role-playing game. Now as usual, I'll cover that on the desktop in a wee second, and I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel-related stuff and some other poll-related stuff. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my patrons, who this week I have been informed most definitely have fought for our right to party. And that's fantastic, and I cannot doubt that, because these are wonderful people who help me out and support the channel and make everything a lot easier for me to do to keep making these videos. So I'd like to thank them very much, and if you'd like to join them and help support the channel, or get access to these videos a week early, or have one of the other advantages, such as becoming a real honest-to-goodness fake Laird of Scotland, then we've got a Patreon in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at Gundark's fantastic technology. So, this is Gundark's fantastic technology personal gear. It's for the Star Wars role-playing game, it's by West End Games, and it came out in 1997. And it's an equipment book, basically set up by the eponymous Gundark, supposedly. It's various kind of black market weapons, and that kind of stuff. Obviously, great use to rebels buying on the black market, the fringers, so pirates, smugglers, etc., will be buying stuff from this as well. Now, a lot of it's from other source books, but there's a lot of new stuff in here as well. Now, unfortunately, this is one of the later books which came out from West End Games, right towards the end of their run for Star Wars. And it suffers from what a lot of role-playing source books do as role-playing games start to get older: power creep. Because they want to offer people stuff that will improve their characters to get them to buy the book. There's a reason for me to buy this book. It's because it's going to make my character uber. And that's very unfortunate, because the Star Wars role-playing game had a pretty good system of balancing built in. That basically anything could give you a 1 dice bonus. So you could get Blast Vest, for example, which would give you 1 dice to resist blaster bolts. But if you were going to get 2 dice bonus, you had to have a penalty the other way. So Stormtrooper armor gave you a 2 dice bonus against blasters, but it gave you a -1 penalty to your dexterity. So it gives you something and it takes something away. And that's kind of balancing thing. Unfortunately, this book kind of breaks those rules. Also, I'd like to comment on the cover, which is very nice, black and red, very eye-catching, very cool colours. But it's very unlike a lot of the other Star Wars stuff. There's none of the concept art they often used, or in-house art. It's very basic, but it's still a very eye-catching cover. Anyway, let's have a look at the back cover. Gundark is one of the most notorious illegal arms dealers in the galaxy, wanted by virtually every law enforcement agency in known space. And now, for the first time, his catalogue of illicit wares is available to you, from the ABC anti-personnel canister to the Z2 stun baton. Fantastic technology personal gear contains detailed game statistics and information on scores of items, weapons, armor, security mechanisms, computers, explosives, communications equipment, and other specialty devices. Take a tour of the black market, where anything can be acquired for the right price. Fantastic technology personal gear contains material compiled from previously published Star Wars role-playing products. So, perhaps they were trying to do things a bit cheap. Now, I really like this book, as should be obvious from the sort of damage to the cover, because I've carried it around a lot and used it a vast amount. Inside, well, we're getting towards the year 2000, desktop publishing is getting very good, so everything looks very nice. You know, we've got sort of data pad with a report here talking about where they got the Gundark's report from. We've got information about Gundark himself, and introduction to the black market, which is very useful if you are going to use this as a black market book rather than just an equipment book. If you are going to, as a games master, just let players access the stuff within it after they've gone through some questing to be able to get access to the black market. There's black market operations, stats for people, how to contact the black market, and then we're on to melee weapons. And there's some very nice stuff in here. We've got lots of coinite weapons, one of the fancier producers of melee weapons in the Star Wars universe. So we've got the coin scar, nice sort of bladed polearm type weapon. The Discar, the Eka Arms Satskar. So this is the coin weapon, the sword. Now this is one of the things which is instantly problematic, because as well as not having a cap on damage, it allows you, if you're using this two-handed, and remembering in Star Wars D6 that there's no real disadvantage to using a weapon one or two-handed, because you can take multiple actions with the same weapon. But this does, in two hands, strength plus 3 dice plus 1. So, vast quantities of damage. If you put this sword into the hands of a Wookiee with 6 dice strength, you're rolling 9 dice plus 1 damage. Now, the average Stormtrooper against melee damage is going to be rolling 4 dice, 2 dice strength plus 2 dice from their armor, I believe. So, you can absolutely demolish every Stormtrooper you hit. And a lot of other things. This is up to being able to destroy vehicles with great ease. A speeder will tend to have 3 dice hull. It gains 2 dice from being speeder scale, so being larger, so only rolling 5 dice to resist. So you're going to be hacking up speeder bikes and Latin speeders with this. It's enormously damaging. It would have been far better if they'd kept the caps. In Star Wars, in the main rulebook, what they did was put a cap on damage with everything except the force spike, where it adds to your strength up to a certain amount, but the weapon is limited by its blade, and you can't do absolutely massive amounts of damage. But anyway, carrying on, we've got stun batons, Ranrock, stun cloaks, a nice idea, so if somebody attacks you, we've got stun gauntlets, very glowing, cool looking gauntlets there, vibro daggers, the vibro rapier, which I believe is from the Privates and Privateers book, I recognise that, Zenji poison needles from the Mistral Shadow Guards, then we're on to projectile weapons and slug throwers, so autocasters, dart shooters, duo flechette rifles, flechette launchers, so like a canister launcher for crowd control, 6 dice anti-personnel. So, as you can see, this is supposed to be for controlling crowds of people. But it does 6 dice damage compared to the potential 9 dice with a sword. Go on here, we've got black powder pistol, so a very basic old tech pistol. Then we're on to energy weapons. And again, some of the stuff goes kind of crazy in this section. So we've got ordinary things, pulse wave blasters. These are old tech blasters from thousands of years before the movies. 3 dice damage. Flame rifles, sound pistols, holdout blasters, again 3 dice damage. A very cool looking odd weapon here, the Merson Quickfire 4 holdout blaster, 4 dice damage. Micro blasters, disruptor pistols, which do up to 6 dice plus 2 damage. Now, they are very dangerous, but disruptors are supposed to be illegal weapons. But 6 dice plus 2 is pretty massive. Even a light repeating blast on one of the absolutely massive assault weapons that Stormtroopers use, much larger than their standard blaster rifle, only does 6 dice damage, but this does 6 dice plus 2 for a pistol. Then we've got heavy blaster pistols. We've got things like the Thunderer here, which does 6 dice plus 2 as well. It mentions in the description that the barrels can warp and it can blow out, but there's no rules for that. There's no, if you roll a 1 on your wild die, then it stands a chance of doing this. It's just up to the games master to decide to destroy your weapon if you're being too much of a problem with it. The Renegade Heavy Blaster Pistol doing 5 dice plus 2 damage. Deck Sweepers. Now these are overpowered because everyone within a 45 degree of the shooter's front is hit with a successful use. Characters within 5 meters cannot attempt to dodge. Characters 6 to 10 meters away may attempt to dodge, although all attempts are at minus 1d penalty. And it does 6 dice damage. Okay, it's only a stunner weapon, but it does massive stun damage to anybody in front of you in a 45 degree angle. And people really close to you can't even dodge that. It's a very effective weapon, kind of overpowered. I mean, your standard military blaster rifle here used by Stormtroopers, 5 dice damage. You can switch it to stun, but it's only going to be 5 dice damage. Carrying on through, we've got a modified E11, which can switch between blaster and slug thrower modes, which is quite interesting, because slug throwers are useful against Jedi, because they cannot parry back the blaster bolts. Predator blaster rifles at 7 dice damage. Fire lance blaster rifles, pulse rifles. And then we're on to missile and grenade launchers. Most of this work is just weapons. Now I'll skip through these. There's only a few in here. Then we're on to missiles, grenades and explosives. Some very interesting stuff in here. The Apex Incisor missile. So a missile which only does 7 dice damage. Okay, it's got 3 dice fire control, which adds to the person's skill to hit. But it's character scale. It's not even vehicle scale. So it's doing less damage than the sword in Wookiee hands, and round about the same damage as a blaster pistol. A fairly large missile. Anti-Walker concussion missiles, which are character scale and do 12 dice damage. That's far more like it. Grenades, electronet grenades, smoke grenades, scrambler explosives, Lewickian fire gems, Merson-shaped charges. And then we're on to armor and attachments. Now, as I said, armor generally can give you a 1 dice bonus. So we've got the armored vacuum suit here. Plus 1 dice versus physical attacks, plus 1 dice to energy. So there's no penalty involved in there. But if we move on to other things which are heavier, plus 2 to physical, plus 1d for energy for the entire body, minus 1d to dexterity. It does give you plus 1d to lifting skills, and it has a sensor pod, which is plus 1d. So it can give you plus 1ds across the board, but not massive. There must be a penalty involved in there. Coinite battle armor, again, sticking to the rules. Dragon armor even gives you a plus 3 and plus 2, while giving you a minus 2 dice to dexterity and all related skills. So the dragon armor sticks in the rules. It's just certain things here and there which decide to break it. The Juggernaut armor does plus 3 dice, but adds a minus 3 dice, so it more than balances it. We've got Leviathan undersea armor, which does plus 3 dice to strength, plus 3 dice to energy, but only minus 1 dice. So it's not really balancing it out. It does have minus 3 dice if you're operating on land. It's only minus 1 dice underwater, I must point out. Novatech power suits, prototype armors, which have plus 3 dice, minus 1 dice, plus 2. So it's almost there, but just giving a slight advantage, a slight power up compared to other equipment available elsewhere. We've got conveyances, combat paragliders, and thruster packs. Must point out that these are jetpacks and thruster packs based on Return of the Jedi's use, which they basically allow you a large jump rather than flight, as we've seen in the more modern Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett series. They don't allow you to fly around, they just allow you to do big powered jumps of hundreds of meters. We've got various restraint devices, snare guns, universal energy cages for caging up Jedi, miscellaneous tools and equipment, so ship suits, organic gills, spacer's chest. We've got survival equipment, anti-insect canisters, grapple guns, flares, scout survival kits, entertainment and leisure devices, so hollow board game bushing, musical instruments, the clue horn, synth harmonica, communications, recording and imaging gear. Then we're on to data pads and various other computer equipment, master command units, data search devices, security devices of various types, code slicers, coder chips, fusion cutters, ways of stealing vessels and breaking into computers and technology. Then we've got scanners and detection gear, so bioscanners, weapons detectors, energy scanners, geological scanners, lifeform scanners, all useful in play, for finding the hidden base, because you can detect the lifeforms within it. We've got specialty equipment, so camouflage netting you can put over your starfighter to hide it out in the open. Holographic projectors that simply project a shield of darkness over the user's face to disguise their identity. Droid disables, Malkite poisoner kits, myostim units. Retinal disguisers, a pair of goggles which cover up your retinas to stop you being identified. And finally, the tri-laser engraver, mainstay of modern counterfeit. And we've got a few equipment pages and a lovely advert for Lords of the Expanse. So that's Gundark's fantastic technology personal gear. As I said, it does have a bit of power creep, where things are getting more powerful, and there's advantages from using this book rather than others. But there's just such a massive stuff in here, and the Games Master can easily restrict or lay out rules that certain items, like the overpowered blaster pistol, may stand a chance of blowing up, and letting the players know ahead of time. So that was Gundark's fantastic technology, and it won the poll this week with some 34% of the vote, way ahead of everything else, and something I'm very glad for, because I love the Star Wars D6 system. I'm still running campaigns of it now, even though it's been out of print for coming up on 25 years almost. Absolutely brilliant game. I love it to bits, so fantastic to cover that. But I was kind of surprised, because in second place we've got Paranormal Animals of Europe for Shadowrun on only 20%. Now, Shadowrun usually gets massive support on this channel. Loads of people love Shadowrun, and they think there are a deficit of channels which cover it. So I'm very surprised it came in on only 20%. Behind that was the Soviet Vehicles Guide for Twilight 2000, the old Games Designers Workshop version of it. On 16% was Sourcebook 2, The Mechanoids for Rifts, which occasionally gets a lot of support on this channel as well, but not this time. And way back behind was the Reformation Coalition Equipment Guide for Traveller the New Era, on only 13%. But it was good to see it made double figures at least, because there's not a lot of support for the New Era. People didn't like it, but it's the version of Traveller that I played most, so it's the version I empathise with. All the others feel slightly odd in comparison, because this was the one I played first. Now, as usual, all of those are cleared out of the poll, and we're back to our retro adventures. So first up, we've got Airlords of the Ozarks for Twilight 2000. Now, this is one of their fantastic open world style adventures. It'd be great to cover it, because I've covered a couple of the Twilight 2000 adventures in the past, and they've been absolutely awesome. Then we've got the second Seal of Repulsion from Mutant Chronicles. Now, this is part of their Venusian Apocalypse campaign, which for some reason I have all the parts of, even though I don't have a lot of Mutant Chronicles stuff. So it'd be great to cover that, and perhaps move on to other parts and see what a campaign in this fairly obscure game was like. Then we've got Into the Dark for Fading Suns. Now, this is a series of 5 adventures, plus lots of adventure ideas. So there'll be a lot to cover in this. Be absolutely fantastic. Now, Fading Suns is one of the games that I've been gifted. When people have been moving house and they didn't have room stuff, I got a massive collection of Fading Sun stuff. And I've only covered a few of the books, so it'd be great to work my way through those. Next up, we've got Dawn of Destruction for the Lone Wolf role-playing game. Now, Lone Wolf was kind of my introduction to role-playing, because I didn't know a lot of people I could game with, and the adventure game books were the way in. And it was Lone Wolf I got absolutely addicted to. I thought they were fantastic. So the role-playing game reaches out to me in a number of ways, and it'd be nice to see what the adventures for it were like, whether they match up with my memories of what the game books were like. And finally, we've got the Fiery Trail for Babylon 5. Now, I've put in this poll before, because it seems to be quite interesting. It's the idea of introducing a seasonal arc. So much like the television show, where you would have standalone episodes, which would be your weekly adventures. It also has the arc across a season, where there's lots of other stuff going on which build together. And that's what the Fiery Trail is supposed to be emulating. Building up a full season campaign, without every story building on that, just certain things that you would drop in. Now, this feels a lot like the Call of Cthulhu book I covered a week or so ago, where it dropped in things to go into previous adventures to build up to a finale. But interesting to see what an entire book built up around that idea looks like. Especially for Babylon 5, which is absolutely great. And I recently watched the new animated one, which was pretty good. It didn't stick up to my memories as much, but I did enjoy watching through it and getting back into some Babylon 5. On other channel-related stuff, well, the Discord has been very quiet, but as usual, if you want to pop in, if you've got any questions, I'll jump on that as quickly as I notice. And over on DrivethruRPG, well, I've been publishing a lot of books of characters recently. Lots of characters with stats for Shadowrun, Cyberpunk, and 5th edition fantasy. So if you're interested in those, they're there. But I've also been putting out a lot of adventure ideas, not only for Cyberpunk, Shadowrun, fantasy, but also for modern horror, and for Space Wars and Space Trek. because obviously Star Wars and Star Trek are copyrighted and I don't want to get sued into oblivion, so I went with the more generic names. But I love those settings and I had loads of ideas, so I put them into some booklets. Now, as usual, if you're a patron of Laird or Librarian status, or you want to join at that level in the link down below, then these are all put onto a shared Google Drive where you can get access to them and see them all. Now it's up to about 150 booklets. So, available to you if you're a patron of those statuses, and I'd love you to be one. Over on RPGgamer.org, well, Ahsoka started coming out, I've started doing my reviews of the episodes, and I'm starting to do some basic stats. Obviously, I don't want to do stats for characters who may change through the series and reveal extra abilities or equipment or secrets, but I can do things like starships, planets, equipment, etc. So I'm working my way through that and adding those to the side. But as usual, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. As always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.